Alright, welcome back to We Play Games. I'm Walker, and here we are in our China Stands Up campaign of Victoria 3 on Open Beta 1.2. We've managed to get ourselves into a war with the Dutch East Indies and with Spain here to protect the independence of Tidor. Not necessarily because we care that much about Tidor, but because we don't want to surrender land to the Dutch East Indies if we don't have to. This is going to be pretty easy land for us to control once we get our colonization through. And right now we are working on it. Hopefully we get there. But if not the end of the world, because we are working on dialectics. And that means that we'll be able to push into level 3 education. And we just want to get our education access as high as we can. But we're also on a quest to probably implement Anarchy here, and that's going to require that we keep our average standard of living kind of low. If you have a standard of living below 10, then you actually have an increased chance at getting anarchist leaders for your trade unions and your rural folk. So we're going to try to move in that direction. Now, important to note, we did not demand a treaty port in Spain just simply because we don't have an interest there yet, but we do need to start spreading our interests out, especially into Europe itself. You know what? I think we'll go ahead and annex Zulu here. We did take the treaty port, therefore we have control over an easy front. And of course, by annexing Zulu, we will have easy access to Puppet or turn into Dominion out of Transvaal and Orange. And those are some pretty high quality land. Looks like we're gonna get a pretty bad resistance to our efforts to begin colonial resettlement here. So we'll wait on that. We'll probably move into colonial exploitation instead. But let's bring the industrialists back and see if we can get oligarchy through. All right, well, we annexed Zulu. So yeah, let's go ahead and make Orange into a Dominion. Generally speaking, I think with the infamy rebalance, I think you do get a lot out of just building dominions rather than puppets. But it kind of depends on the situation. There, for instance, if we'd taken Zulu as a puppet rather than a dominion, we could have turned those guys into vassals a long time ago. And now with the power of water tube boiler, we can dramatically increase the strength of our mines. Of course, one thing that we are doing by focusing so much on society is we are setting ourselves back in regards to our production technologies. But because so much of what we're trying to do is going to be social engineering inside of Great Qing, I think that the size of our economy really does push us towards wanting society techs early. But don't underestimate the power of production technologies. They are also really important. Oh, all right, we got oligarchy. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but that's like the third or fourth time we've tried to roll oligarchy, so I don't feel too bad. And of course now, because we're an oligarchy, we can bring Republican armed forces into the government and still have a reasonable amount of legitimacy. And so now this alliance that we've built will give us a pretty reasonable shot at proportional taxation, and proportional taxation, of course, at plus 138k is going to dramatically change the nature of our economy. Oh, I wouldn't hate taking a treaty port in Bremen here, not necessarily because I care about taking control of a treaty port out of Bremen of all people, but because we do need a treaty port in Germany, and it's way easier to take one now than wait. All right, we got dialectics. So that means now we can go ahead and press level 3 education. Now this is of course going to make the Confucian scholars really, really strong for a short period of time, but I think it's ultimately worth it. Getting a lot more literacy is really critical as Great Qing. Right now we're 161 worldwide. Oh, our admiral died, and now we have a reformer in charge of the armed forces. That's okay. Oh man, and Hanover has become a puppet of France. All right, well, it looks like Germany is going to have some serious problems in this game. Oh boy, UK is having another revolution. Well, that's pretty awful timing for them, honestly, because I wasn't sure what we were going to be doing next. But now that we know that Great Britain is having problems, this might be a really great opportunity for us to liberate the British Raj. Now, of course, we are late to the party, so the British Raj is not going to take all of their friends. But if we can separate these vassals from the actual Great Britain back home, I think it'll be pretty easy for us to expand our influence in India. We'll also conquer British Guyana. I think British Guyana is ultimately going to be pretty useful. We also could have used this as an opportunity maybe to liberate New Granada, but I think we can do a second war with Great Britain for that. Oh man, looks like the French are starting to push in. Good for them. The Ottoman Empire wishes to enter into a defensive pact with us. That's okay. They're doing so via an obligation, but I think that's fine. All right, so we're taking up on proportional taxation. We're not there yet, but we're up to 50%, so we're going to get there this time. The question, of course, is how much does it cost us that we didn't get it earlier? So our offense is actually higher than their defense, so we could potentially just try to push it here. Oh boy, looks like we opened up a whole front there. Great Britain has rivaled us. Yeah, that makes sense. We are trying to take their their empire apart. Ooh, and we're winning some naval battles out here. Cool. Oh, great. We got proportional taxation. It's going to dramatically reshape our economy here in such a way that we actually probably should go ahead and just add a bunch of construction points here. I think we're gonna do it. I think we're gonna beat the British. Oh, some of our generals are dying here, but they're very old, so it's kind of to be expected. Oh, right. We got proportional taxation through, so let's go ahead and start working on something. I think ultimately it's probably more useful for us to get colonization first and then to pick up police. Colonial resettlement has relatively little support for it, whereas colonial exploitation, we can use the strength of the industrialists to get this through. All right, so it looks like France has ducked out from the war with the UK, but I think that's all right. All right, we won the war, so let's see what happens to the East India Company here. It might collapse. There is in 1.2 a collapse event for EIC, but it looks like they're just going to flip into Bengal. That's still really helpful for us, though, because this is still going to be a powerful blow that we've just dealt to the UK. And of course, all of these puppets and subjects that the UK has inside of India, most of them don't have market access anymore, and so this is still going to be devastating for the British economy. But of course, there is a new independent Bengal, so let's see what we can do in terms of trade with them. All right, so without Bengal inside the British market, it looks like the British market is going to be demanding a lot more of our raw goods, and that's ultimately going to be really productive for our GDP. You know, I think it's time for us to go ahead and take a treaty port in Italy. I think we'll take it in Sardinia. That's probably going to be the easiest for us to take. Ooh, all right, so Great Britain has jumped in on this war, which means we actually could potentially sway the Prussians to our side. Sure, we'll sway the Prussians in for a treaty port. Russia is using this opportunity to try to subjugate Tidor. I mean, we were happy to fight the Dutch East Indies for Tidor, but I don't know if we're going to be interested in fighting Russia for Tidor here. I think we're going to declare neutrality there, especially because we are in the middle of this fight over here. Oh, and we got colonial exploitation right on time. We got 6 more months left until quinine, and that's when we can really go crazy. Yeah, it looks like the French and the Prussians are just going to absolutely dumpster the Italians in the north. Oh, we absolutely need to take up mechanized workshops here because this is going to give us +10 economy of scale. So we're going to take that and then we'll bounce back to our society techs because we actually want to get anarchism ASAP. Of course, in order to do that, we are going to need some more level 2 society techs here, but we can get them. All right, we got the Sardinia and Piedmont Treaty Port. And now I think Great Britain really is kind of screwed. Yeah, we could offer an obligation to Egypt to pull them into our customs union. That's a good deal, I think. All right, we won British war reps. Oh man, and just in time to watch the US dumpster Mexico. What are they fighting over? Colorado and New Mexico? And a treaty port? All right, well, it looks like they're fighting, but not for much. Oh, Great Britain no longer views us as a rival. What is happening over here? All right, well, we will take a non-rivalry with Great Britain and instead shift over to rivaling the US, because I think that they are also going to be a pretty dangerous potential great power that we need to cut down. So we're definitely going to want to unlock a police force, but right now we have all of our bureaucracy actually locked up in real institutions that we need right now, but we can't delay a police force for too long. Ooh, now we have a nihilist in charge of the industrialists. That's potentially really interesting, because that gives us an out to potentially switch out of state religion. Yeah, let's go into freedom of conscience. I think that's going to be useful. Once we hit central banking, of course, then we can start leveraging all of our money diplomatically, which is going to dramatically change the nature of markets here in Victoria 3. Bankrolling is really, really powerful at pulling people into your sphere. You know what, let's go ahead and absorb Dynam. By absorbing Dynam, of course, we're getting 15 extra infamy, but that is going to make us now very adjacent to Siam, which means it's going to be a lot easier for us to puppet them in a future war, which I think is going to be our goal. If we can control all of Southeast Asia, that would be huge for our economy. Not to mention, I think that would be thematic for Great Qing in its industrial infancy to want to control its immediate environs. So yeah, we'll want to pick up all of Southeast Asia, and we'll probably want to pick up Japan as well. Uh-oh, got a bad roll on freedom of conscience. All right, not strictly necessary, of course, but would have been nice. So let's pass dedicated police. Okay, we got dedicated police force. That's a really big deal because that actually makes our scholar officials happy enough that now we might be able to get propertied women through. All right, we got Dynam. Oh, France is trying to colonize Eastern New Guinea with us. That's no good. We'll have a conflict in East Asia for sure. Oh, Sweden wants to enter into a trade agreement. We do have a treaty port here, and so we don't need necessarily a trade agreement with them, but by accepting it, now we are friendly enough with them that they'll jump into our customs union for an obligation. That seems worth it. You know what, we'll sign a trade agreement with the Netherlands as well. I think if we can get Argentina, the Netherlands, Sweden all pulled into our customs union, it's going to be really great for our economy. Oh great, we got propertied women, so that's going to slow down our birth rate, but it'll increase our workforce ratio. And I think ultimately that's going to be useful to us, especially because like we just have more pops being born than we really need. And we'll go ahead and start working on secret police. Now that is of course going to infuriate the rural folk, and now they have a radical leader in charge. But I think we want to just keep making the rural folk as mad as we can get and get them to ultimately move towards anarchism. I just think it would be really interesting to run anarchy with Great Qing. It's by far and away the largest population country, so it would be a fascinating experiment. All right, so we have central banking, so now we can start bankrolling people, which is great because this is going to be a way for us to transform these customs unions into protectorates. And we're not playing with Her Majesty's government rules, so I don't have any problem reducing people from protectorate to puppet. All right, and we got Netherlands into our customs union. So if we end up just transforming the Netherlands into a protectorate, that I think would also be pretty helpful. But I think this is a good place for us to end episode 3. We've managed to beat the Europeans on a couple of different fronts, including, of course, now we have a couple of treaty ports in Europe itself, one in Bremen, one in Sardinia. But don't think that that's, of course, the end of our diplomatic expansion here. I think that's actually the beginning, because we haven't yet pushed into Japan. And of course, now we have a big and growing stronger United States over here that we do need to check. Oh boy, but we have enough bureaucracy. We can go ahead and survey the Suez. And that's going to be huge for us. As soon as we can get the Suez Canal down, we will be able to do a lot more trade with Europe and save a ton of convoys. Taking steps to make sure that you get the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal as Great Qing, I think is really important, especially if you're going to be doing free trade. Just because of the way convoys work, they're going to be drawing the length to get to and from China. But in this case, if we can add little passages for them to go through, we'll save tons and tons of convoys. So yeah, look forward to our next episode of China Stands Up here on We Play Games. We'll see what we can do, but I'm sure we are getting closer and closer to fighting some great powers like maybe Russia, and then forcing them to release a whole bunch of territory, because we really could use just tons of wood. And the more that we bully Russia, especially in regards to Siberia, the better. Oh, and look, one of the first states here in India has broken free. All right, that's Walker. Take care.